Hey guys, welcome back everyone to Roofing Insights. I have very special guest today, Josh Coombes.
Great to meet you.
Great to meet you. He's a founder of, tell me your hashtag.
It's hashtag do something for nothing.
So we're here, it's a very unique building. We have a Minneapolis photo center here, and we're very privileged to have different exhibits, and the latest one is actually featuring Josh's work. So Josh is, so you're from London. What's your title? You're hair stylist or hairdresser?
Yeah, so I mean, I never fuss too much about like titles of anything, but hairdresser, hairstylist. I mean, I worked in a salon, so I was doing women's hair, men's hair, different kind of things. But I mean, I don't.
So tell us what you do. Like, what brought you here in Minneapolis?
To Minneapolis. Well. Yeah, next door to us is a gallery, and that's a photo exhibit, which is my work with an incredible photographer, Valérie Jardin. She's Parisian who's lived in Minneapolis for a long time. So this is her hometown. She brought me over here because we've worked together on a couple of different projects, one in New York and Paris, which is really around what I began a few years ago, which is cutting hair, taking it out of the salon and onto the street, and that's been for homeless people in different communities.
What was behind it? How, like, you wake up one day and say, I'm gonna go and give somebody a free haircut in the streets?
Initially, I thought it was just about this issue of homelessness and how can I help. So there's lots of people on the street in every city, and I felt like I needed to get up and do something about that. And I love like being able to use a skill to be able to make someone a bit happier. Like a haircut's a really cool way to say, hey, let's give you a fresh look. Maybe you'll get that inner love again, looking in the mirror and recognizing that actually, like, hey, you can look how
so
you
amazing,
maybe used to. So there's, yeah, I mean, it's a really nice, like, small luxury to be able to give someone who lives on the street. But, you know, I realized pretty soon when I started doing this that I was actually helping myself as much as I was helping whoever that was. Because take away the haircut, the conversation that I was having, like the moments we'd share together, whoever, whether it was a man, a woman, young or old, it seemed to transcend ethnicity and race and all of those things, that actually there was this connection happening that I realized I really needed in my life. Like I was, I guess, really at the end of like a long-term relationship and different things in my life, and I kind of needed to take the pieces apart and put them together again. And I found that in the people that I was meeting on the street, and yeah, this is the message from me, is this hashtag do something for nothing really isn't just about hairdressing, it's not about homelessness, it's about human connection, and it's about trying to bring time and being present for one another back to the center of the ring, and trying to follow that for a bit, because I think it's always been a constant, but right now we can feel very stretched and divided in communities for sure.
It's very interesting. I have a friend in Dallas, Texas. They own a very big roofing company.
Right.
And just a couple of weeks ago, we met at a conference, and he told me that his company, they support 3 organizations who adopts the kids. And he said that number one, they've done a lot of research. And after I spoke with him, I did my research, and he said that number one resource, I don't know how you call it, for happiness today, it's volunteering. So when you volunteer to do something, it brings you happiness. And he said, if you do research, there's nothing else brings more happiness to us as humans is volunteer to do something without getting paid. A lot of people think, like, you know, money and rewards, something, you know, like our society goes towards like hustle, you know, go work and get reward. And I see a lot of people trying to get big reward for shorter period of time. So we're proud, hey, I get paid $1,000 for 1 hour of my time. But what I found is when you do something what you do for free, it actually gives you even bigger reward.
Right. Yeah. You know, so interesting, and I'm really glad you touched upon that, because no matter what you're doing or what your work or your vocation is, I truly believe in exactly what you said then, which is happiness in studies of well-being is clearly defined into 2 different groups at the moment, which is hedonic happiness, and that's all the instant feel pleasure stuff, the hedonism, of course, of like the material, the things we buy, of course, that make us feel good because it gives you pleasures today, and it's avoidance of pain on a daily basis too. Try and get rid of that pain and bring pleasure into your life. And the other form of happiness is eudaimonic happiness, which is very much about the deeper self-growth that you get through connection to yourself, your creation, or other people especially. So when people are volunteering their time or they're going out and doing anything like this, that's exactly what you're getting. It's not as easy to market because you can't really explain to someone those benefits in an advertisement in the same way, or in like a very instant kind of like a YouTube ad, or like anything that we were told to buy, or consume in our lives. But I mean, what I want to say also is that, like, I follow people who give me great inspiration, who also, I mean, people like Gary Vee on Instagram, people like this who are like, I also believe in going out and working and getting what you want to get. I think the best distinction you can make is actually, what's your thing? Whatever your passion is. Maybe you want to get to the top of a business. Maybe you want to have a startup. Maybe you want to work your ass off to get whatever that is. That's amazing. I love music and cutting hair and plenty of different things. So that's my thing. But whatever you do, like that thing we're talking about, that human connection, like that's a constant. And that's a very important thing to recognize for well-being.
It's very interesting because when I started a roofing business, and when I came to the United States, actually for first month here, I was living in the car. I didn't know anybody, and I literally was homeless. And
Wow.
I see, as a society, we're kind of trying to separate ourselves from homeless people. A lot of people, when you on a stop sign and you see homeless people, I see a lot of people will try to do everything they can, even not to make an eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was reading your stories here on the wall, it's amazed me how many stories there is. Like this person was become homeless 4 years ago, and here's his story, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. I think the long form of this is really important, and by that I mean, of course, the image of homelessness has a lot of stigmas, and like, let's tell it how it is. Like, I understand why, because like you've got people who can be really annoying and in your face. They can be drug addicts. There's lots of mental health issues. Yeah, I mean, there's people who are hustling, and they're like, I understand, like, if you're trying to like support yourself and your family and like people who are dear to you, and you've got some guy coming up saying, hey, give me some money. I'm also like, why should I give you some money? Hang on a minute, I'm working hard, I'm struggling too. I think what I do when I go out and I work with a lot of different communities on the street is I try and press rewind on someone's story. And I recognize that people do make mistakes. People do sometimes make really bad choices. I'd probably say half the time it's very circumstantial. Half the time I talk to people, and there's this thing I call the zigzag effect, which is if I had a problem in my life, I'd probably go and stay with relative, friends of friends, before I finally got shot out the system at the bottom. Some people, that's just staying on their friend's sofa until their girlfriend or boyfriend gets annoyed, and then they're out on the street. So there's a real lack of infrastructure in a lot of people's life, which is one reason. But not to digress too much, I think the most important thing to recognize is, yes, there are lots of homeless people. It's hard to know what to do, but I've found through probably about 3 years now, very intimately having conversations, hands-on with the haircut of people on the street in lots of different communities, whether that's America, South America, Australia, Europe. There's people know the mistakes they make, and there's a conversation and another level that you can reach with someone, which isn't someone with just a cardboard sign or hustling for money, which is truly someone who wants to connect with you also, truly someone who's probably in a lot of pain right now. It's up to you, I mean, I understand people haven't got that much time, but for me, I'm very passionate about this. I'm very passionate to try and get to the human condition beyond that stereotype, beyond the drug addiction, beyond the mental health, if possible, because there's usually somebody there waiting for you who also is in the same position as us, which is trying to do their best and still has hopes and dreams, and it's a cycle that's very hard to get out of. That's what I've found.
What's the best way to approach homeless person? Like you said, it's probably a lot of pain. I agree with that. And actually, where we are here on Broadway, I see a lot of people, young people, sometimes well-dressed people, and homeless, female, males, everybody, and it's like, to be honest with you, where I am right now, like, it's not like I forgot where I came from, but I just don't know anymore. I forgot how to approach those people.
Yeah, it's really, like, it's a very, like, normal thing. And, whether you look at someone who's homeless like that, or somebody who is in a very different demographic you can't relate to in another way. I mean, it's normal. Like, you know, the people you spend most of your time with each week, it becomes comfortable, and then people beyond that, it becomes less comfortable. And I think homelessness is probably the clearest example of that, because also there's a lot of high like senses working, because there's sometimes, you know, I mean, I'm really honest about this stuff. Of course, it's not all that pretty sometimes. There's some full-on visuals that you get. I worked down on Skid Row a lot in LA, and like, wow, that's a head spin. But, you know, I mean, to answer your question, I think in approaching people, really the only way, I ask this question to people on the street. I say, hey, I get asked a lot, how should I approach you? What do you say to that? And people are like, what do you mean? Like, well, I'm just as me. Like, I'm just I'm a human. I'd say to be you and to be yourself is always going to be the most natural interaction with anyone. But I get it, man. I get what you're saying, because like I had to tune in a lot. I was walking past people too, and I had to tune in a lot. And I realized that when I truly just went out and was me with the person, I realized a lot of the barriers were my own. A lot of the worries of whether someone's going to try and hustle and rob me, or whether, I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? I mean, truly, actually, I think about it, the most dangerous situations, or the most threatened I've felt in my life, it's really not from what I've been doing, that's for sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, probably in the city, and you know, being beaten up once after a club, and I can still smell the aftershave, and you know, I mean, it's like like there's all kinds of people who are out to get you. But in my experience, I'd say that the bark of homelessness is like a hell of a lot worse than the bite. I mean, it's like the people out there. I'm not saying everyone's an angel. Talking about this gallery next door, like my biggest passion really at the moment is trying to get a real lens on this, like taking a real look at it, and thankfully through some amazing creative people like Valerie, who's taken these photos that we've got here, we're really trying to say, actually, like, this is just a human, and what do you think? I mean, it's just about storytelling, it really is, because I'm not trying to say, hey, this person's you know, like a perfect person, or they're you know, someone we should demonize, but it's just saying, hey, here's someone's story. I'm hopefully through what I'm doing give people, you know, a more of an insight, more of like that long form that we're able to have right now. An Instagram post is great, because what I do is I say, here's a before and after of someone, which draws someone in with the photos. So I take
What's
the
your
photo.
Instagram?
It's at Joshua Coombes. And that's where I post before after of the haircut, and people go, wow, look at this guy who, you know.
And that's the most amazing part, I'll be honest with you. When
Yeah.
I was reading those stories, what fascinated me and got my gut going is seeing the people who feel refreshed, who feel honored, and reading their stories. I mean, you can see it in eyes, like feel like, hey, I'm a human again.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's weird, isn't it? It's weird how like just such a small thing like that, I get such a good response. I mean, everybody who's part of this community on Instagram who engage with this, it's like, wow, I get such a good response from everyone. It's such a small thing. It's just a haircut. Like, it grows out in a few months, but it's just like that is enough for some people to really go, oh yeah, actually that stereotype, it's like it's knocked down in an instant, because like you clean someone up, you give them a shave, you know, it's like that for me is the draw to then read someone's story and have that longer conversation. And I've really found that so many people message me and say, hey, you know, thanks. And I'm not saying this in like an egotistical way, like pat myself on the back, but it's just an experiment. Like, people are now stopping and talking to someone, they're finding out their name on the way to work. These small moments of being present for one another, they're happening a little bit more through thousands of people who get in touch with me. And I'm like, that's what it's about right there. I'm not in this to solve a problem. Like, I'm not the government. I'm just one person with like my kit and my phone, and that's the message, is like getting hung up on like the solution for tomorrow of any issue, of anything, is what keeps people on the sofa or on Twitter shouting at one another. Like, your empowerment as a human is really important too. Like, write down 3 things that you love. If you feel passionate about an issue that is really bugging you, like, get out there and do something small. Like, all I do is cut someone's hair and have a chat, and guess what? It really has resonated a lot. But that's a really important message too, to find today's answer for yourself. I'm not trying to solve a problem. I'd love it if there wasn't people on the street anymore, but I think it's quite unrealistic to think that anyone's got a solution for that overnight. So I go out there and I do what I can today.
Do you receive any criticism?
Yeah, I have before.
What kind of criticism?
Just for talking too much. No, I'm joking. No, for what I'm doing. No, it's like,
Sure.
so yeah, actually, you know, we're not naming no names, there's a couple of charities in London who didn't really get exactly what I was doing, homeless charities, when I started doing this, and they were a bit like, you can't, of course it's a very sensitive thing, you know, I'm taking photos of people, I'm telling someone's story, and it's all consented. You know, there's plenty of haircuts I do that don't go anywhere, you know what I mean, because social media it's broadcasting, but yeah, people were worried that, hey, actually, I got a couple of phone calls, but people who work for charities who were like, hey, like, you don't know what you're doing here, like, these people,
isn't it weird?
this thing, this
people
thing.
Supposed to
yeah,
be doing it. And
I know, it's a strange thing, and of course they're getting paid to do it as well, and that's not offending anybody who's
Sure.
doing this, because I mean, look, I have a tremendous amount of respect for anybody who works in a charity, and I think everyone's in it for the right reason, but there's different ways of getting there, and there was a little bit of that. Then, of course, there's this thing of your Instagram blows up a bit, and it's like, who is this about now? Is it about you or is it about them? And I'm like, because it's hard, man, it's hard. That's why I love having these conversations, because I post, I'm here, I'm there, I'm this. I should really just post a photo of like my bank statement along with it, and also like the ways that I try and connect these wires to keep this going, because it's not for everyone, this lifestyle. It's like people are like, how do I do what you do? And I'm like, well, you stay on a lot of people's sofas, you make a lot of friends, you sublet your room when you're out of London because it's really expensive, so someone else pays the rent. You've been thankful enough to work with, we're working with Fujifilm here. Valerie Jardin, she's a Fujifilm ambassador, so they sponsored 2 trips for us. I work with some amazing other brands as well, like Lush Cosmetics and Tom's Shoes I'm starting to work with too, and these are humanitarian thinking brands.
Awesome.
Who I've been able to work with and say, hey, let's do this together, let's film together, let's work together. So it's always connecting things, but I just think that one thing's for sure, like it's the power of like the internet for me, and that connectivity is like, it's fascinating. There's so much negativity, but when you have something, like it's really, it's amazing that today we can do this all through our phone, you know.
You know what they say, if you don't receive any criticism, you're not doing, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
People criticize, but
right.
What's amazing me, how much, like, it's always, like, if a guy like you gets haters, like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
You're always going to get haters. It's the best. Haters are great. They keep you, like, I'm so
exactly.
with you.
They kept you in check.
Yeah, they keep me in check. They keep me questioning what I'm doing and whether I'm doing it for the right reasons. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy that conversation. If you're in a room and you're talking to 100 people nodding their head and smiling, it's like, forget it, like, because you're not, you know, then you're not doing the right thing. I mean, I used to be in a punk band, right, and like, I was like hoping my mum hated the record. Like, I was hoping that when I played that, my mum would go like, nah, switch it off, and luckily it was fine. Because, like, I mean, come on, you've got, yeah, you're going to get haters, and you're going to have people who, yeah.
I have one last question for you. You did mention in the beginning that it's not a charity for you, and I loved it, because for a lot of people, it is a charity. You give something for free. So if it's not a charity, what is it?
Well, I mean, you shouldn't have to sign up for anything to go out and be nice to someone today. I mean, like, look, I understand that aid, when people have and people have not, that really works. When people really need stuff and some people have a lot of stuff, that's a really simple transaction to work out how that works. I'm not giving back because I ain't got that much to give. I'm having a two-way street interaction with someone where I am actually I'm truly getting a lot for myself, and it's really okay to recognize that. It's not selfless. No act is truly selfless because it emanates from somewhere in you that you wanted to bother and go out and doing it, and that's all right. That's okay. But so yeah, to summarize, no, for me, charity is absolutely wonderful, but it serves a purpose. But I'm trying to say to people, hey, everyone's got busy lives. There's small moments that you can get this stuff and you can make a difference to someone's world. You can give hope to someone in your weekly routine. You don't have to drop everything and become a humanitarian. That's going to give you and that person a really cool feeling and a little bit more of a sense of togetherness. And that's kind of what this is for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for
Cheers,
your time.
mate. Appreciate it. Nice one.
Thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you so much for joining and for creating this hashtag Do Something for Nothing. It's pretty much a movement now.
Yeah.
Hope you guys will follow it, will join Do Something for Nothing yourself. See if it's going to bring you internal joy. I promise you it will. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks, Josh.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you think about the topic today in comments below, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel.